Welcome, everybody. Glad that you're here. What we're doing is we're going to roll out the House capital budget. I want to emphasize that this is a bipartisan effort. We've worked hard to, I think, find agreement on the issues that the state faces and sort of meld our capital budget with the crises that the state's facing in classroom limitations, mental health needs, infrastructure needs, and I think we've done a good job of, in a supplemental year where there isn't a lot of dollars around, I think we've done a good job of focusing those dollars on the crises that we face, particularly in classroom construction. The state is a growing state. We have the #1 economy in the union, and our schools, we have more than 1 million students in Washington, and almost every school district is being faced with the use of portables and large class size. So we tried to focus on addressing the classroom need across the state. And we did that by a couple of ways. We've added dollars to K-3 classroom construction. The other thing we've done is we've initiated a pilot program with about $10 million, $10.8 million, to use cross-laminated timber to develop classrooms for schools, for districts that have schools that just need classrooms, do not need all new schools. And the idea is to use this modular construction with this cross-laminated timber, which checks a number of boxes. It provides for forest health by thinning the forest, providing a value-added product for those forest thinnings. It helps us build classrooms, and it does it in a modular way that hopefully will be cost-efficient. And then it also sequesters carbon, both in the forest and the healthy forest and also in the classrooms. And these are not to be confused with portables. This is a long-term capital investment. These classrooms will be in use, our hope, for 30 or 40 years. So what this pilot will do, will generate classrooms, and probably we'll choose, I think, 4 districts on either side of the mountains, and focus on districts that actually need classrooms, not whole new schools. And through this pilot, we'll be able to both develop a production chain for cross-laminated timber, but also work through some of the permitting and code requirements to make sure that this material works in classroom construction. And another piece that we're working on for classroom construction is House Bill 2968, which is a formula to use the budget stabilization account, again, to meet this crisis around the need for classrooms. And those of you that are familiar with this, is it usually, when the stabilization account reaches 10% of the budget, it does go into classroom construction. So we're just trying to jumpstart that to, again, meet the need of the challenge of our classroom. And I will turn this over to my ranking member, Richard DeBolt, to elaborate on that a little bit.
Thank you very much. So I'm Richard DeBolt. I'm from the 20th District. I'm the ranking on the Capital Budget Committee. A couple really important things about this budget that are important that I wanted to segue from is, when we look at the budget and we look at classrooms and we look at what we can do to be innovative in Washington, I think this budget is innovative because we're giving new opportunities to use new materials and new classrooms to help solve the problem for the future. When we look at the budget stabilization bill, that's going to be a trailer bill following the capital budget so that we have this opportunity to capture some of these dollars. It reminds me of 601, and when I was first elected many years ago, Representative Smith at the time from my area of Southwest Washington worked on an initiative called 601. And the idea was to limit government spending, 1, and 2 was to build school construction. The problem is that these cups are to fill up and overflow, and as it overflows, it goes into school construction. But we have a problem. We have a greedy operating budget that keeps taking all that money away from us. So what we want to do with this is we want to say, okay, we acknowledge this, so we're going to go ahead and take the 0.5% of 1% to use it now, to lock it down for our children, to do what the intention of the 601 initiative was, and to help create a more stable school construction fund. I also want to talk about a couple points in the budget that I thought were really great. Representative Theringer and Representative Smith and Representative Stanford and I have started a process on mental health. In the last cycle, it was a very good budget for mental health, so we continued that on. But when you look at this budget, you can't think of it as the big year budget. This is truly a supplemental budget, And I think that's what we did really well as a group, was that we took and focused on the areas that we already started focusing on in the big budget, and that was education and mental health. Those were our two drivers that we decided as a group we were going to focus on those priorities, and I think we did a good job with that. Lastly, as we all know, we were devastated again by wildfires in Washington State. CLT is going to help with that because it gives us a chance to thin our forests and use our materials before they burn up into a big ball of CO2. And what we can do with this, though, is we have to do some repairs. So we were able to take some money from an emergency fund and put it into wildfire help for those communities that were most impacted, about $5 million. And then lastly, I know MODCA is an issue for a lot of people, and our budget doesn't do MODCA because we know the account is not sustainable. And so we thought it was really important at this point to help the account heal. But in order to do some projects in our area that we think need to be done, I'm very proud of this group. We were able to recreate the Public Assistance Trust Fund. And we put a modest amount in there, but it does set a philosophy into the future legislature to keep that project going, because that's what our local communities desire most. So with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Stanford.
Thank you, and I am Derek Stanford, State Representative from the 1st District and Vice Chair on the committee. I'd just like to highlight, as Representative DeBolt just mentioned, our investment in the Public Works Assistance Account, known to some as the Public Works Trust Fund. This is a revolving loan fund that helps local governments build infrastructure. These are projects that are vetted both at the local level. They're highlighted as priorities from local governments, and then they come to the state where they are vetted again and ranked and prioritized. So we really get the best of the best in these projects. A lot of them have to do with economic development, leveraging other investments all over the state, clean drinking water, and other important utility functions. So I'm just very pleased that we were able to make this investment in the Public Works Assistance Account and really kickstart attention to those needs all over the state. And we know from past years that we've had very strong bipartisan support for this in the House, and very happy that we're able to push this forward.
Well, hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm Representative Norma Smith from the 10th Legislative District, Assistant Ranking on the Capital Budget Committee. And I just want to echo what's been said, first of all, about the strong bipartisan effort that went into this budget, because I believe it's so important for people to recognize we are working together to do our very best. These are dollars that are hard-earned, and we want to be responsible for them. I want to highlight just a couple of things we did in education. Most of you know that last year we asked WSU's Energy Extension Office to get out, do the surveys that we need in order to make sure we're deploying K-3 additional class size dollars to where the greatest need is. And while that data is being brought back to us by the end of this year, we also created a $200 million pilot project so that school districts who had emergent needs could come to the legislature and we could begin to deploy those dollars immediately this year to deal with the challenges that we have as we move to all-day kindergarten and lower K-3 class sizes. So I'm happy to announce that in this budget, a significant portion of it is again focused on education. That includes $12 million additional dollars for that to add to the $200 million. We'll be able to pick up a few more projects around the state. I'm really pleased about that. In addition to that, we added another $35 million over the $611 million that went into school construction last year. So we were able to move that number up a bit. We also provided authorization for a number of things within the budget around academic buildings, student housing, and lab buildings. And finally, I just want to point out, I know that Representative Theringer has already spoken about it, but the $10.8 million that's going to go for the modular pilot project, I'm really excited about this. This is something that I think holds great potential for our state, for some of our most distressed communities, and I look forward to continue to work as we have done as we move this budget forward to do what's best for the people of Washington State. So thanks.
So we have a couple of members from the Education Committee from both sides of the aisle to speak a little bit about the education piece and most importantly, House Bill 2968, where we're trying to, as Representative DeBolt mentioned, preempt a little bit the budget stabilization account and get it into classrooms, which we need now. I think a lot of us feel there's a crisis for that now. So I think Representative Santos has a few comments. Did you want to speak?
I wasn't prepared to.
Oh.
But
Would you support the bill?
I absolutely
Great.
support the bill.
Chad, did you? It's
Do
up,
it
sure.
together.
Well, we could. So my name is Sharon Tomiko Santos, representing the 37th Legislative District in Seattle, also the chair of the House Education Committee.
And Chad Maganance, the 5th District, ranking member of the Education Committee.
We're very proud to be standing here in solidarity with our colleagues and the leadership of the House Capital Budget Committee. They have clearly worked very, very hard to come together on what is without question, a nonpartisan issue, and that is to ensure that the students of Washington State are well housed in our academic system. And so we're very grateful that the Capital Budget Committee has not only seen fit to add money both to SCAP as well as improving some of the investments that were begun last year, but really taking leadership in addressing the crunch issue that we are facing all across the state, and that is the lack of adequate and safe and appropriate classroom space so that our students can actually study and learn.
I think it's important to point out that sometimes solving one problem, the price of success, is another problem. With the 36% increase in K-12 funding over the last 2 bienniums and heavy investment in all-day kindergarten and K-3 class size reduction, we've created a bit of a teacher shortage and a bit of a challenge for districts who are lacking in facilities to house those additional classrooms. And so this remains an ongoing commitment from the Capital Budget Committee to ensure that we're addressing that need, and it really complements the work we're doing for McCleary.
Thank you. And I guess the last thing I would say is just specifically on the budget stabilization account. I think in the wisdom of this bipartisan capital budget leadership group, they recognize that it is a perversion, if you will, of 601 to not allow the funds to spill over into what's needed most, and that is our children's future.
So I think before we got to the mics, both Representative Santos and Maganda said they didn't want to speak, but I didn't want them to just be pretty faces behind us. I wanted to give them a chance. And they did a really good job, so thank you. So any questions? We're open to any questions if people have questions. All right, then. So I think the full budget documents will be available around 12:30 for folks that want to take a look at that. And obviously, we're capital budget members, ranking member DeBolt and myself, and Vice Chair Stanford and Representative Smith are available if you have questions or ask us, and we'll probably direct you to the OPR staff who really knows what's going on. So thank you all.